Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Ram Mohan, Associate Professor and Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on social structure, and this module comes from the paper Indian Anthropology. So before we go this module, let us see what are the learning objectives and outcomes. We will study the definitions of what is social structure and the different elements of or the constituent parts of social structure and the types of social structure. Lastly, the students will learn the recent trends in social structure theory. The concept of social structure, as first given by sociologists, but later it has been improvised by anthropologists. So starting with Rutledge-Brown's definition, social structure according to Rutledge-Brown is the social relations of person to person. In a sense, Rutledge-Brown was opinion that social structure can only be understood and discovered the existing social relations of a particular society. So they are the raw materials of the social structure. Social relations forms the base of social structure. If we expand Rutledge-Brown's definition, because social structure cannot be seen outside objectively, it is only perceived on the basis of how people are related to each other in terms of the given social organization. For example, family, marriage, religion, which defines people's relations in these social setups. Karl Mannheim, a sociologist, has also given definition on social structure, stating that social structure is the web of interacting forces, which is also closely related to Rutledge-Brown's definition. And this web is so intricate, it is inextricably intertwined, where we cannot separate one thread or one line in this web of interacting forces. That constitutes social structure according to Karl Mannheim. Another anthropologist, Raymond Firth, has given a definition on social structure that the idea of structure of a society is nothing but the totality of society itself. So for him, society means a structure. Without structure, there is no society. So he doesn't put forward a more elaborate definition of what is a social structure, because that is abstract. S.F. Nadel said that social structure is again a form of network of relations among humans which are interacting each other. That means again this has a overlapping meaning with Rutledge-Brown's and Karl Mannheim's definitions. So according to Levi-Strauss, which is famous for his structuralism theory, says that social structure as a logic behind the reality, because objectively reality cannot be seen. What we mean social reality? So how social reality can be understood and deciphered and come to the meaning? So that means he says that there should be some logic which is operating even at the abstract level. And the job of a social scientist or an anthropologist to discover this logic. And again for S.F. Nadel, As you said, it is a network of relations. It is a reality itself. So no need to go further. George Peter Murdoch says that social structure can be found with ethnographic facts and taxonomic classifications, like, for example, kinship relations, clan organizations, political organizations, how people organize themselves can also be found in the social structure. So, what are the different elements of this social structure? Having a definition of social structure given by the sociologists and social anthropologists, what constitutes social structure? It is little abstract to understand because social structure cannot be seen like a physical structure. A building, we can see the structure. An object, we can see the structure. But for society, when group of people living together like a small tribal society with a simple technology, what structure they have? How to know their structure? If somebody says that the simple people, nomadic people also have a social structure, where do you find that social structure, which is completely abstract, which is in the air, but it is manifested through the interactions, it is manifested the way they act out, which gives these meanings of social structure. And they're guided by some kind of a form. Without this form, a sort of society cannot run. It is not a loose entity that people are just living. They need a structural aspect to function well, and they need a structure to continue the society in a long-term basis. Otherwise, it becomes a loose and it is meaningless. So in that sense, Levi-Strauss says that perhaps there could be a logic behind these functioning which is structurally constructed. So when we talk of this, what constitutes a social structure, there are different aspects we have to understand. One is the normative system, which deals with the ideals and values. What does it mean by normative? Means norms which are being guided, which are being prescribed by the society. In every society, people have certain ideals. Like, for example, what is good behavior, honesty, integrity. These are all universal ideals. So it also applicable to specific cultures. And values, what value we give to resources, what value we give to the opposite gender, how do you value women, how do you value men, how do you value God. This all depends upon a collective value system. Without value system, no society cannot function. So every society is embedded with many value systems. So social structure can also be understood in a position system. It means that the roles and statuses of the individual. We are all human beings, individuals. Every individual have certain role and a status. What is my status? What is your status? And my role depends upon my status. Like father, mother, husband, wife, children. What is the status of a child in a family? So that status determines his role. Your role is to do this. What is the status of women in the society? That status gives them role. Acha, women are so and so, men are so and so, king is so and so, work class is so and so. So that is a position system we can understand within the social structure. For example, matriarchal societies where women are dominant. Let us say there are few tribes in India like Todas, to some extent Kasi, which is a matrilineal system, where women have highest status compared to men. So in that social structure, what is the role of the women? To take dominance in economic activities. Women have the religious rights. Men are, subsumed to the women's status, which is completely different in a patriarchal society. Like that, we are placed in different statuses, and our status reflects or prescribes the roles that we have to perform in the society. For example, at a cultural sphere and a religious sphere, the Brahmin has a highest status in each and every village, despite no money at all. But because of his status, he might be poor, but still he has a status. Oh, he's a Brahmin, he's the priest. But his status gives his role. What is his role? To interpret the text, to interpret religious things with the common people, to mediate between normal people and the God. So on. Like, we can give number of examples that how we are situated in this. Now, the sanction system. Proper enforcement of social norms. Who does look after this, performing this or sanctioning the norms? Who has the authority to sanction these norms? We all know that society has certain norms. Who gives these norms? Who postulates these norms? Who oversees these norms? There is a mechanism. In that mechanism, we have to see how or which has the power to look after these norms. Is it the judiciary system? Is it the people who look after the political aspects, the leaders, the heads of the institution, the head of the family? Everybody has a role to play in seeing whether one is violating the norm or one is restricting to the norm. If a child does something wrong, who has the authority in the family? Father has the authority. If somebody has done something wrong, somebody has taken. So with this, the entire system is going on track because there is a sanction system is there. And the other one is the anticipated response system, an important element in social structure, where participation of individuals in the social system. We cannot escape in a society. You cannot leave out our own contribution to the society. In that sense, everybody contributes something to the maintenance of the social structure, given the roles that we play as a husband, as a wife, as a child, as a teacher, as a priest, as a king. All these things contribute to the participatory roles. So in a sense, the bottom line, the action core is action. So action is the root cause which helps to what we say that the social structure consists of these webs of social relationship. And we are enmeshed in the sets in a given social structure of a particular society, which makes the society to sustain itself, which makes the society to have solidarity, which makes the society to not to become chaotic and become loose. So taking the concept of social structure, an important theory in sociology and in social anthropology is the structuralism, which has the roots with the linguistic philosophy by Ferdinand de Saussure. Taking the linguistic forms that all languages have some structures universally, and every language comes with the two forms, the lingua and the parole, the language and the sounds that we make, which is structurally designed. Lévi-Strauss thought that perhaps societies also have structures based on the languages constituted themselves. In a sense that the structural linguistics proposed by Saussure has given a lot of impetus to Lévi-Strauss. And further, it has also been developed by Charles Luckman, which says that Luckman has taken this structural understanding as a dialectic process. which are based on one is complementing the other. But Luckman could not give more explanation beyond dialectics. It is Karl Marx who took this concept of structure in explaining how in a capitalistic society the means and modes of production are being placed and how people are being placed within the framework of the society. Taking further, there are other sociologists and intellectuals who have taken the structural concept. Anthony Giddens, a famous sociologist, has put structure in his theory called structuration, that there is an interaction between human agency and structure. That means the structure of a society is not outside the individual. It is encoded in the individual, and in relation with other individual, we are producing the structure or continuing the structure of the society. Perhaps we can also alter the structure only through human agency. In that theory, he says that this is something which is dynamic. At one level, we are continuing the structure through our activities. At another level, we can also try to change the social structure only through our interaction. Louis Althusser also used the structural component in explaining social phenomena. He took the economic aspect of structural aspects of how certain modes of economies are existed in the societies. And he was more referring to the capitalist societies, particularly in Europe, and how this lead to conflicts. Michel Foucault, influential in his extensive use of philosophy, used that how structures take control of corporal punishment. For example, he says that knowledge is power. In what context he says that knowledge is power? That means human beings are in the hands of certain institutions which are knowledge based. For example, prison and the clinic. Human beings have no choice, and the structural aspect that the institution is punishing you, and you are in that hand of these institutions which are encoded with knowledge that gives power to these institutions, which where you use these structural aspects in madness and civilization, the archaeology of knowledge. Coming to see whether there is any formal or informal structure, McIver, a famous sociologist which has written a book on society along with Page, says that what are the factors that give rise to primary groups in industrial organizations which are present in all social structures, and which gives to secondary organizations. And the primary groups, family, other socializing agents, which makes the individual to get into this social structure. Then comes the secondary agencies, which are expanded in many institutions, which also reinforce social structure at formally. How? rules and regulations, formal rules and regulations in a school, formal rules and regulations in the industry. But we don't see these formal rules and regulations at a family level. Those are all unwritten rules, understood. But that also gives the base of social structure. Starting with that thing, it goes to the secondary level. Now let us see the Parsonian view of structural aspects. He says that these structural aspects comes in four ways. One is the universalistic, which can be found in all societies, which are universal, as simple as that. And some societies have only particular ways of dealing social relations, which could be differ from society to society, in a sense that our culture is unique, other cultures are unique. For example, religious cultures says that Hinduism is different, Islam is different, Christianity is different, Islamic State is different, Hindu is. So in what way they are different? It is nothing but at the structural level. Polyandry, monogamy, these are all part of the social structure. We can see clearly, when we go to a society and say that I see this structure is different from that structure. Now there are two levels here again, one is achieved and one is ascribed. In a sense that in modern capitalistic societies, individuals can alter the status which has a bearing on the total social structure, which we see on the basis of the merit. Becoming a president, becoming a leader, becoming a businessman. That means the effort that we put and we become something. So what does it mean? That means the structure is allowing you to become like that. Take any modern society. An individual has, if you are enough to produce certain things, in a democratic setup, like anyone can become anything. So the structure is facilitating your status to become like that. It is not a rigid structure. It is an open structure here. But in a state like hereditary kingdoms, where the society is ruled by a king, still we have kingdoms. One cannot become a king because it is ascribed. A king, if king dies, his son becomes. His son becomes, there is a succession. But in a democratic setup, you can become. One can become a president because our structure is not like the structure of a kingdom, a traditional kingdom. Now, well, to what extent structural aspects can be taken into consideration while we are studying society and its operations? Merton is basically an action theorist. Do not agree that structure influences individuals' behavior. So Merton's paradigm is that the concepts of power, concept of class are basically seen by the inequalities in the society. Some members are privileged, some members are not privileged. And one has to look into the pattern which these societies are organized and why it is happening. Why some people have these opportunities and why some are deprived. So Parson is little critical about whether structural aspects will lead to change in the class or change in the power. For example, if you look at the modern capitalist societies, it is the stratification not based on the ascribed status, but the stratification is based on the kind of resources that you have, the accessibility to the resources, the achievements that you do. People are not being guided by the moral values. Coming back to again to Marxism, which is based in principle on the structural aspects, Marx proposed that history is understood in terms of the material forces that one society has. How a society accumulates wealth, how a society doesn't accumulate wealth in terms of capitalist societies. So he creates two distinction things, that material base dictates the superstructure of the society, which is further elaborated by Raymond Firth, which has done excellent works in the tribes of Africa. He says that social structure is concerned with the ordered relation of parts of the whole, in which all the social elements are linked together and between the various social groups. For example, family, religion, economy, political organization, social organization, all comes under, weaves towards this larger whole. To some extent, a philosopher which is not so much influential in structural theory, Gerald Lenski, also discussed something about the structural aspects in his book Power and Privilege. Takes to why there's variations of subsistence economies to other parts of economies, which leads to different social stratification. Even Peter Bloch, another sociologist, also stressed that structure is basically a product given through an historical process, and it will continue unless if it is not altered by the individuals. To summarize, we have first discussed the importance of social structure in anthropological knowledge and why anthropologists are interested in social structure. If we look at the definitions of social structure given by various sociologists and anthropologists, starting from Radcliffe Brown, S.F. Nadel, then we have given by famous structuralists Louis Du, which is propounded by Marx. Marxian analysis was taken a little bit by Louis Althusser. And the famous structuralist in anthropological thought is by none other than, which has given deep insights by Levi-Strauss, that one has to look into the structural aspects of the human mind. So the same structural understanding is taken a little bit further by other sociologists like Parsons, Robert Merton, and in the modern contemporary times, we have the structural understanding from post-structuralists like Michael Foucault, Louis Althusser, which they have delineated that even modern social institutions are being guided by the structural principles which are given by the earlier social thinkers understood the whole social reality. So with this, we can comprehend that social structure, though it is very abstract, but if we look into the various perspectives given by these anthropologists systematically by studying different societies through their ethnographic works, we can have comprehension about the whole concept of social structure, its elements, its functioning, and we can appreciate what is the truth behind these definitions and components put forward by all the anthropologists as they define the structural features of the societies.